Hey guys, the Unpharmacist here. Just wanted to touch on one point, which is particularly around the antidepressants and SSRIs. So before I do that, I wanted to say the Unpharmacist idea, or the whole point of doing this is that based on a quote, and that quote, I think it's by Alvin Toffler, he said that the literate of the 21st century are not going to be those who can't read and write. It's going to be those who can't unlearn, learn, and then relearn. So a lot of this stuff here, the unfarms, is about sometimes unlearning some of the stuff that we've learned, some of the stuff that we've picked up. It might be unlearning thoughts or beliefs or paradigms or mindsets, unlearning some of the information that we've been taught over the years as new things come out, right? As new information comes to light and new knowledge, new research. So that's what kind of this unlearning kind of thing is all about. So in this particular session, I'm going to cover a bit of unlearning about antidepressants and SSRIs. SSRI stands for serotonin, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It's a particular type of antidepressants that's commonly used today. So that's what this video is all about, and it's particularly for some people that have asked about this. So I'm going to keep this posted up here and put on the YouTube channel for those people that may be interested also in it. So let's get started with that, the antidepressants and SSRIs. So to begin with the unlearning around this, and some of the stuff that I've been finding out is that the idea or the theory of chemical imbalance, which leading to symptoms of depression, came out around the 50s and 60s, and it was based on some observational type studies. And so that's how long it's been around, the idea of there's a chemical imbalance, there's some kind of neurotransmitter that you're deficient in or that doesn't have the full effect that it needs to, and therefore we end up with the kind of symptoms that people experience in depression. So that's where the idea came from, chemical imbalance, based on observations that have been made. Now, here's the crazy thing about it. Between then and now, there has never been a human study that successfully links low serotonin level and depression. So never been a human study that links, right, that successfully links low serotonin level, which is one of the particular neurotransmitters. So never been a human study that links low serotonin level with depression. Okay, that's the first thing. Even in the imaging tests, blood urine tests, post-mortem kind of assessments, even animal research, they've never validated the link between a neurotransmitter level and depression. Okay, so there isn't a study to show that. Another crazy thing, we can't even actually measure yet the serotonin level in the living brain. Okay, we can't even measure serotonin in the living brain, let alone have an idea of how it works in the brain and how it's metabolized. We kind of have an idea of that in animal models, but not in a living human brain. Okay, so that's the first thing about antidepressants and SSRIs, is that based on a theory, right, of chemical imbalance, which came out a long time ago based on observation studies. However, there have not been any human studies done on them that successfully link the low serotonin level, right, or a low neurotransmitter level with depression. Okay. The next point then is, well, how is it that we end up with so many of them in being so readily available these days? And how do they even, well, how are they supposed to work? Let's do that first. How are they supposed to work? Well, they're supposed to work by, let's use serotonin for an example. It is a neurotransmitter, right? So there's, in the brain, there's a place where the serotonin is stored, let's say it's here, and then at the right times, according to a stimulus in the nerve, it will be released into what we call a synaptic space, right? And then there's a receptor on this side where the little serotonin molecules, right, go and attach to receptors on this side and have an effect, right? And that effect leads to whatever that specific neurotransmitter has an effect on in the brain, right? And therefore, how we feel. In fact, there's a really good book by Candace Pert. She's a super science person in the States, and it's called Molecules of Emotion. It's a really good one to look at to get really the science behind it all. So they've got these things that are happening there. You've got a storage place, right? There's a nerve impulse that comes down. It releases the serotonin. It goes into that synaptic space, and then that serotonin goes and has an effect on this other side of it, right? In these receptor sites. What selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors do, which is the antidepressant like citalopram and a lot of those ones, is that when the serotonin is released from here, right, and when it's had its effect, right, over here, if there's more in there, it gets taken back up. It's what's the word? Taken back up into the storage site through different receptors. What the SSRI does is block those receptors, so it means that there'll be more serotonin in that space to continue to have the effect. Okay, so that's how they actually are supposed to work. That's how we believe they work, right? In humans. The thing is, there are other serotonin receptors, not just in the brain. There's some in the gut. In fact, I think there's quite a lot of them in the gut as well, and throughout the body. Serotonin receptors are not only found in the brain. Okay, so that's kind of how it works, and that's how the SSRI drug blocks it. Okay, so why is this so widespread? How did this get out to be so big? Well, there's something called direct-to-consumer advertising, DTCA. Now, this is, I'm pretty sure, still only in the US and New Zealand, where we have direct-to-consumer advertising, marketing. Pharmaceutical companies can market their medicine directly to consumers, right? And so here's what happened between 1999 and 2008. The US spent in 1999 $1.3 billion in direct-to-consumer advertising, and that ballooned out to $4.8 billion by 2008. 2019 now, I'm not sure what the actual spend is, but I'm sure it's more than 4.8 billion. But you think about how much that's a ridiculous amount of money that people are able to spend on advertising directly to consumers about medicine. Okay. So that's the next point, is that there's this huge amount of marketing effort behind these medicines. So next point that I wanted to bring up is, let's think about the actual material, the studies that have been done. Why is it that we've got such a widespread use of antidepressants, yet from what I said initially, there's no actual human study that validates the link between low serotonin level and depression? Well, then why do we have so many published studies, and why do we have such a widespread use of it? So the next point is around how that data is used. So here's another point. Lots of times when pharmaceutical companies are doing their trials, right, clinical trials, and doing the trials, and they'll get results from those trials and experiments. Sometimes those things may not align with what they already want to see. They don't align with what they believe. And so those trials and things are discarded, right? So they might discard those trials or some of those papers, published papers, and not include them in their statistics that they present down the track to consumers. One example of this is that there was a group that did a study on a particular antidepressant, and when they brought all of the trials together, right, all of the different trials that had been done, including ones that had been excluded by the pharmaceutical companies, for which they had to leverage the Freedom of Information Act to get. Okay, so when they included all of those studies, it showed that antidepressants outperformed the placebo effect 20 out of 46 times. So that's not even 50% of the time. So let me just say that again. Once they included all of the trials and all of the studies that had been done for this particular medicine, the antidepressant outperformed the placebo effect only 20 out of 46 times. Okay. Now, on those times when it did outperform, so for those 20 times, now let's just focusing on the 20 times where the antidepressant did outperform placebo effect, it outperformed it in an average of 1.7 points. So that the average improvement was 1.7 points. And it wasn't on a 5-point scale or a 10-point scale, 1.7 points on a 52-point scale, right? And that scale is known as the Hamilton Rating Scale for Depression. So the times when the antidepressant was more, did outperform the placebo, it outperformed it only by an average of 1.7 points on a 52-point scale. So that seems crazy to me. Right? So yes, it did outperform it less than 50% of the time, but yes, there were times that it did outperform the placebo effect. So yes, there's some value there. However, the value is very small, 1.7. It moves, the average improvement was 1.7 points on a 52-point scale. So that's something else to think about. And so some really good books to read about this is called A Mind of Your Own. That's written by Kelly Brogan. She's a psychiatrist in the States. Other good books are Pharmageddon, written by another psychiatrist in UK called David Healy. And look up both of their websites. They've got lots of good information. Both of them are psychiatrists. Both of them have all the research. Both of them have references to all the material that they're talking about. And Candace Pert is the other one. She is a scientist in the States, top-level scientist, used to work for the government, and has all of the research and references that go along with the things that I'm talking about. They have way more understanding and information than I do about it. But I'm just bringing to light some of the stuff that you may not be aware of in the interest of this idea of unlearning. There's some stuff that we need to unlearn that we've already been taught and learned before that we need to then relearn new ways and learn and relearn new ways of how we deal with things. So that's what this initial video was about. It's just to get out a little bit of this information and kind of get you thinking about, okay, well, then what else can we do instead? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be on using any of these. Right? For some people, they certainly do help in having the effect that we want and the desired effect, and are doing well for people. There are many people also that maybe this is not having the best effect on them, right? And then instead they're getting all of the side effects that are not positive. Okay, so that's kind of the angle I'm coming from. Yes, there are certainly people that these medicines have helped and supported them to become well. I'm saying that there are also many others that that they may not be experiencing the full effect, or they may be experiencing the placebo effect, yet they're also getting all of the side effects that come with the use of the medicine, and would do better without it. That's not to say that people need to come off these. In fact, not immediately, and certainly not abruptly. A lot of these medicines need a process of time, but whereby the person becomes well themselves and improves and increases their well-being, strengthening themselves to the point where they no longer require some of these medicines, because they don't now get any of the symptoms for which they're taking the medicine in the first place. So next time I'm gonna hop on here and talk about what are some ways that you can do now to improve and increase your overall well-being, so that you can, I guess, start dealing with some of the symptoms of depression in different ways. So that's what we're going to talk about next time. But that's all for today. Hope that's been helpful for you and you've got something out. If there's, would like you to share this and kind of get this out there as well. But please, if there are any questions that you have, please comment below and we can answer some of those in a future video as well. But yeah, that's all today. Hope that's helpful. See ya.